Elizabeth Kennerly-Smith is the research coordinator in the Department of Occupational Therapy, College of Public Health and Health Professions at the University of Florida. She received her bachelor's in elementary education and her master's of education in special ed education from the University of Florida. She has served as a project manager for the Multi-Agency Network for Students with Emotional Behavior Disabilities, also known as SEDNET, and has extensive expertise in collecting, reviewing, and analyzing data related to student interventions and outcomes, including restraint and seclusion, suspension and expulsion, school-based mental health, and community mental health. In this role, she served 6 regional districts and provided consultative and assistance activities based on specific requests or identified needs, including requests for grant funding for special class initiatives or projects. Ms. Kennerly-Smith provided training in areas that include positive behavior, social emotional learning, children's health, MTS, supports for reduction of restraint and seclusion, transition from school to community, and trauma-informed care. Ms. Kennerly-Smith is highly skilled at building relationships with students, adults, and families when providing activities to assist in increasing parent and youth involvement, as well as support in education for families of students with disabilities. Joining her is Megan Betsche. She is a transition resource teacher. She is in her 18th year of teaching and 6th year at Project Search at Advent Health, Altamont. She received her undergraduate from Ashland University in Ohio, then moved to Florida in 2004. She attended UCF to complete her master's in special education. She then attended Nova Southeastern University to complete her specialist degree in special education. She loves Project Search, and it makes her heart happy. In her spare time, she likes to enjoy scuba diving and taking her dogs to the beach. And these fellow Floridian transplants are here to share about a new tool out of the University of Florida that supports vocational fitness for all. Dr. Kennerly-Smith and Megan Betsche, please take it away.
Gosh, thank you. I could feel myself turning red when you were reading all this. It's too much.
I agree.
Thank you so much for having us today. Megan and I, we actually, we started collaborating together, I guess, just over a year ago through one of our projects here at the University of Florida, collaborating with Project Search. And I just have to say how amazing, she really is amazing. It does make her heart happy working with these young people. And it's been really great for me since I've been out of the classroom to have the opportunity to work with some, I always will call them kids again. So I'm really happy that she's here with me today to be my partner in presenting.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. You can go ahead to that first slide, please. Okay, so just real briefly, our learning objectives here today are we're going to explain what the VoCFit assessment is and how it's used in real life, learn a little bit about Project Search and internships, and explore some real life success stories. I really feel like Kathy's presentation was a really great segue into, her explaining the why and how, and hopefully we can show you some of these ideas and best practices in real life. I'm out of the Department of Occupational Therapy at the University of Florida, and we run a small lab called the Youth Empowerment Leadership and Learning Lab, where we actually not only include young adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities in research, but they actually help create the research and interventions and assessments that we use, and we employ them in our lab. So we're going to talk about how the Voc Fit is applicable to that. You can go to the next slide, please. Just a couple acknowledgements. I won't read them all to you, but the Voc Fit assessment is actually a free online tool that's available for anybody to use right now. It's at vocfit.com, and you'll see it's there on the slide multiple times. It was developed by Andy Perch at CSU and Dennis Cleary from Cincinnati Children's Hospital and Project Search. And we are supported by the National Institutes of Health to continue to make the tool better for these adults to use in their jobs. Next slide, please. So I'm sure, since a lot of us are professionals, you know, we're talking about those employment planning meetings where, you know, you get together with like the teacher, the parents, the job coach, maybe even a boss or an employee. And we, you know, starting at age 12 now, in Florida is our transition age, and we start writing those goals and objectives on the young adults IEPs for careers. And we're really going to dive into how vocfit.com can help that. Next slide.
So these are, how Liz said, always my kiddos, that they are young adults. So the Project Search program and Altamont Springs is in Seminole County, Florida. So we're the county between Volusia and Orange County, kind of a little rectangle shape of a county. And we choose our Project Search candidates throughout our 9 high schools we have in our district. Project Search is a 1-year unpaid internship, and they go through different rotations throughout the hospital. So we're at Advent Health in Altamont, and part of the hospital system, we also have the warehouse component where they're packing, they're called blood culture kits. They go to the emergency rooms for people who are really, really sick and the doctors can't figure it out. And so these cultures are taken, and it's an amazing thing because we've been able to help their contamination rates and things like that, because we pack all of them for any of the Advent Healths from Tampa to Daytona and ERs. So it could be a freestanding ER, it could be part of the hospital system and the ER, things like that for Advent Health. So these 3 young people here, we had virtual meetings lately just because of COVID and different rules. You'll see some of us still wearing masks and things. Right now, if we're in a non-clinical area, we don't need our masks. But the minute that we go into a clinical section of the hospital, we will need our masks back on. So, you know, life has totally changed because of that. So the first young lady you're going to see is Courtney, and you'll see her later on in a video as well. I give them a PowerPoint template, and we work during our morning class time. Every morning we have an hour of direct instruction. Those of you know, when you have an IEP, there has to be that instructional piece. So whether that's through consultation, monitoring, those pieces, I still do a direct instruction piece because I want to make sure that we're getting the content we need to then take out into our jobs. And so during that morning meeting time, we developed our employment planning meetings. I actually have 4 of them a year. Typically you do them after each rotation, and Project Search's model is that there's 3 rotations throughout the year. It's a rotation for about 10 weeks, and then you have a little bit of time off, and then 10 weeks, a little bit of time off. And that time off is back in the classroom or learning travel training or things in the community. We have a little bit of a different setup, and most of you know, in the state of Florida, we come back to school in August. And so we have 2 to 3 weeks of orientation, and then we match them with their departments. During that orientation time is when we do our first Voc Fit assessment, where we take all the skills of the student, put them into this computer-based program, and then match them to the skills of the jobs that we have or our rotations. It's a really cool system because as you go in, and you're going to see some of these slides, it rates them just like a traffic light, green, yellow, red. And you want to put them in areas where there's some yellow, because we want to have a little bit of that frustration part where they're going to learn, but we don't want to frustrate them too much. So at these planning meetings, we are talking about how the rotation's going, how we've used that Voc Fit assessment, and how things are lining up. So the reason why I say I have 4 during our first rotation, because it's really their first time doing a job. We are here Monday through Friday. We get here at 7:30 in the morning. We don't leave until 2. Granted, there's an hour for class time. There's 30 minutes for lunch, but working that long, none of them have done that before. And so really building that stamina, building that skill set. So halfway through our first rotation is when we do our first employment planning meeting, because they're starting to realize, oh my gosh, this is real. My legs hurt, my brain hurts. I'm hungry at 10 a.m. because I was never a breakfast eater and now I need to eat breakfast. You learn all these things. So at this employment planning meeting, you talk about the rotation, you talk about the skills that they're learning, what that Voc Fit, that first assessment looked like, and how they go together. So the student or the intern, they're actually talking about what is on all of their slides. So they're going to do introduction. No, you're good. You can switch it. They're just going to do their introduction. They're going to tell their families, and I usually invite their teachers from the previous year just so they know. Go ahead, Liz. Sorry, I'm a talker, guys.
Really great. It's an and I think I saw there's another project search teacher here attending the conference, and it's just such an amazing program. It's like nothing I've ever seen before, where kids are doing these internships, and the first piece that they're completing really is this vocfit.com assessment. And so I know everybody's so excited to know what it actually is that we're talking about. So the Voc Fit it's 133 items. And it's something that either a teacher, a job coach, even a parent, somebody who knows the skills of the intern or the young adult well, they answer about it. It's designed and researched for individuals with intellectual disabilities. And of course, that can also be, comorbid with autism, any other type of disability. Anybody can use it, really, is what I tell people. But the research has only been done with young adults with intellectual disabilities right now to prove that it's valid and reliable. It's strength-based, where it shows their skills in areas where they really, fitting into that talent actualized idea, where it shows what their true talents and skills are. And then it also takes what their skills are and it focuses on what skills do they need for this particular very specific type of job. And then it creates this job match. And then in the day and age of COVID, we can also do it over Zoom and online and things like that. Like Megan was just showing how their meetings were virtual. So that's worked out really well also. You can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so in those 133 items that you're answering about this young person, these are the subscales. It goes from anything from physical abilities. Megan was just talking about kids realizing once they start working how their back hurts and their feet hurt and their legs hurt, especially, in a warehouse type job, if you're bending and lifting and things like that. And then all the way to cognitive abilities, computer skills, self-determination. You can go to the next slide, please. Also, communication type skills are one of the subscales. Are we stuck? There we are.
There it goes.
Go ahead. Safety, interpersonal skills, and just general work attributes. Next slide, please. And what that does is, that's okay, thanks, Chris. It gives a score. And when you're answering these questions, it says, can this person do this task with high ability, some ability, or low ability? If they can do it without any help independently, even if they use their own assistive technology, but they can still do that independently, they have a high ability to do that skill. If they need some support like cues, prompting, that's some ability. And if they can't do that task and they're otherwise dependent on somebody to help them, it's considered low ability when you're scoring them. Next slide, please. So here's a little example of the physical ability subscale of the VocaFit. And I know 133 items kind of seems like a lot, but Megan can tell you it goes so fast when you're just clicking, and it does not take any time at all. So there's always a handle. It says, to what degree does the worker, student, or intern demonstrate the ability to stand, run, twist the body? And you would just click off high, some, or low. Next slide, please. And so it actually will give you a percentage raw score and a raw score for each of the subscales. So you can see that this person in this example has much higher physical abilities than they do with things paying attention to safety. Next slide, please. And then Kathy was talking about this also, like the environment. What it does is it also rates the skills needed and the demands for hundreds of types of jobs. The creators of this assessment, they went to ONET, they went to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and they combed through what skills are needed to be a teacher, to be a teacher's aide, to be a lifeguard, to be an ice cream parlor worker. I mean, any librarian, library assistant, any job that you can think of, they've rated the skills that you need for that job high, some, and low also. So for example, if you are, working in the hospital, in the cafeteria, what are the skills, what are the essential tasks to perform that job in the cafeteria? So it might be things like being able to serve food or upfront customer service, things like that. So it matches the job skills to the person's actual skills, and then we start creating these reports. Next slide, please. So the vocafit.com is going to provide you with 4 different types of reports. There's one called the Student Intern Worker Assessment Report. There's a measurable skills change report. I know that a lot of our VR people that we work with, they really like this one because it provides data that can show growth. So for example, a young person can take a VocaFit at the beginning of an internship and then at the end and show where they've grown. It does a rate or agreement report. So say me as a teacher, I answer about a young person, and Megan as a teacher answers about a young person. It'll show where our answers match and maybe where there might be some discrepancies. And a lot of times that has to do with environment, or if like I'm mom and Megan's teacher, the environment at home doing chores might be a lot different than, in a work and job setting. And then it also creates that intern job matching report where you can pick different jobs that someone might be interested in and see what kind of job match they have. Next slide, please. So we're going to go through some examples where it's going to show the ability of the young person and then the demand of the job. And this is where Megan was talking about that color coding, where it's really nice and visual, and it's going to show pros and areas of strengths, areas where there might be some intervention, and then some areas of oranges and reds. And we like to say, I know in the teaching world, red pens are kind of frowned upon. So we always like to mention that red does not mean stop. It does not mean that that person can't ever do that job. It just provides really valuable information for you as either a job coach or a boss to know where that person really might need some assistance. Next slide, please. So if a person there's a high demand in that job and the person has high skill there, that's going to be considered a pro and a match. Next slide. They still have high ability, and then there's some demand for that task. This is going to be considered a strength that worker has. So they have a high ability in this area, but they may not need it for the demand of that job, and that actually counts as one of their strengths. Next slide. They have some ability and there's some demand. This is where we're going to see we might need, these are the things that we're practicing for in an internship. I always joke around and say, when I went to teacher school, I had no idea what I was doing. And that's why we go and do internships, like for any job. So, you know, this is part of that inclusion of a real life experience for all people. Next slide, please. If they have some ability and that job has a higher demand, this is where we're going to see that they're going to need some more assistance and continued intervention, but we always know that they're going to have a need in this area. Next slide, please. If they have a low ability in a specific skill and that job requires them to need that skill, it's going to be called a con. But like I said before, that does not mean that they cannot do that job. It's for our information, to know, to have as much information as possible to help set goals and work on these things. Next slide, please. And then low ability, low demand. And that one kind of just like, if there's a low demand for that job and they have a low ability, it's just considered an area where, since there's a low demand, we just keep an eye out for it. Next slide. This is another way it looks, that vocational fingerprint. And I know the slides are so super tiny, I can barely see them. But you can see on the left-hand side, there's a list of specific jobs that we're trying to match this young person to. For example, a zoo employee, library assistant, a front desk hotel clerk. And you see there's lots of areas of yellow there. Very few oranges and reds, and good amount of green. And this is what their vocational fingerprint, we call it, for these specific jobs might look like. Next slide, please. I'm going to skip this one for now and come through that one to the end. Next slide, please. So we just saw that slide with all the yellows there. And so that's actually going to be a really good fit for an internship where these young people are learning these skills. And we really want to help them ease into the internship where we start from their strengths, what can they do independently, add new skills, add tasks that they struggle with slowly, continue to add tasks gradually as they master previous tasks, and then find out where they need the most support. Next slide, please. So for a just right internship, we want to focus on their current skill levels. We also want to provide that challenge. We don't want something to be too easy where they're not challenged, and we don't want to provide something that's too hard where they get frustrated. And if the young adult is struggling, always support them, modify the task, create accommodations. Next slide, please. Teams will work with the intern, and Megan has some really great examples of this that she's going to share. We always work with them when they're in the yellow, orange, and red. And we always just remember something not too hard or not too easy, just right. And the VocaFit, it doesn't tell us what to do, but it's a communication tool that helps the young person and their team balance not only what they're interested in, what they're talented in, what their skills are, and what their learning needs are as well. Next slide. I'm going to let Megan share some of her internship examples because this is like really the best part. And you're muted.
I'm learning all my technology. I'm still at work today with my intern, so it's just to give you guys some background. We started this year with 11 students, and we are, I have 4 here right now. However, all but 2 have already gotten jobs in their community. So we're technically down to 2. We just haven't done their dismissal meetings because we're going through the training process, and we just want to make sure that those jobs end up happening. But anyways, so this is one of our rotations. This is in our central service, which actually supplies the entire hospital with all of their needed items. The young lady and the gentleman that you see in the picture, that's a rotomat, and it's actually 2 stories high, and it rotates. It's a pretty phenomenal machine, and we have 4 of them in central service, and then we have 1 in surgical services, and the surgical service one holds those silver boxes that all the instruments are in for surgeries. So if you have a hip replacement, a knee replacement, gallbladder, an appendix, situation, all of your instruments are in these specific boxes, and our students organize them. So these are for the supplies. There are different types of supplies in each of these spots. The tray that's pulled out, Chantel types in her code to get in, and then maybe the first few letters of something. Say you're looking for a Band-Aid. Band-Aids at the hospital are not called Band-Aids. They're called all kinds of other things, but you can start that way, and the machine figures it out, and it'll start rolling to where you need it to go. So the biggest thing we have found, and then obviously using our Voc Fit assessments, is that, okay, we want to put those kids who have those green, oranges, and reds into a situation, but also not to get them too frustrated. So Chantel did her first rotation here. She's at the end of her rotation, typically the last 2 weeks, and Freddie is about to start a rotation in that department. So now that Chantel has built that confidence and has learned these skills, she's now able to teach Freddie those expectations in the department. What you can't see there, they all carry, most of them have cell phones by this point. However, cell phones aren't always allowed. So we also have a little memo pad with a spiral on top, and they can write notes in and things like that they may need to know, such as the login ID, the codes, some helpful hints when you start looking up other things, because they start looking up medical equipment as well. It could be ENT tubes, it could be catheters, different types of Coflex, the bandages that wrap other bandages. It's amazing what's in there. We also have like chest tubes and things like that. So for them to know what those are, because that's out of my wheelhouse. I'm a teacher by trade, so I don't know those things. So just helpful hints like that. And so they're able to teach each other. And we also don't want Freddie frustrated. He's starting his new rotation. And so having another intern do it rather than a teacher or a job coach or an employment specialist, depending on how that project search site is set up, because they sometimes look at us as, oh no, we're in trouble. You're like our big boss. We don't want to disappoint the big boss. And this helps ease them into something that's going to be tough and hard, but we're going to be able to get through it. Next slide. This is our emergency department. It's one of our supply rooms there. There's actually 3 sets of supply rooms, equipment rooms, things like that. We have 4 different zones in our emergency room here. So when we first came in, all of these systems were set up by letters and numbers. So A1, A2, A3. So the whole column, just like an Excel spreadsheet, is A. And then the first drawer is 1, 2, 3, and then it goes to column B, C, D, all the way down. So our young lady on the left, when we did her Voc Fit assessment, multitasking is difficult for her. Actually following a multi-step checklist was difficult. And she's also a non-reader. And letters and numbers, you have to read, right? However, she's amazing at matching. So we made her task list with, say we had to put something in A1 and we did the picture of the item. So that's why hers looks very different than the gentleman on the right. He was able to follow a task list. He was able to read. He was able to handle multi-step situations. So when he did his, he was able to fill up an entire cart. He was able to get, I don't know, there's probably 15 different items on that cart at this time. And he's able to fill up 15 of those bins in that emergency department. It looks very different. By the end, Lauren was able to do that. But in the beginning, we were not able to do those pieces and those parts, and we had to scaffold and make sure that we provided all of those proper supports and fading as needed. Yeah, and both of them, actually all of these people that you've seen so far, they're all employed, and it's exciting. So next slide.
I just love that story. So I love, my background is teaching, and what I'm hearing is the VocaFit even allows you to differentiate their job skills during internships that they're doing and using.
Absolutely.
So that's why when they're in that internship, because like I said, we don't just want to dumb it down or make it easy. We want them to learn and grow and offer these young people the same opportunity as any other person might have. So that's just another example. I can share my screen real quick, right? I just want to share because for some reason I apologize. I left this one slide out because I want to show you that not only does the VocaFit give you this chart right here, this color coded chart, but it also is going to, let me get there, break down the areas that are in yellow, orange, and red. So you're not guessing, well, oh, there's all this yellow, what skill is that? It's actually going to tell you, it's going to say, the areas that they might need help with is initiating new tasks, following rules and regulations. Here in orange, you see that there's a need. This person might have a little bit of difficulty dealing with conflict. One question that's on there about general work skills is taking criticism, and I always laugh about that one because I'm never able to take criticism from any of my bosses. So I always
that's always a hard one. It's really, really hard. I have strategies to teach that during that direct instruction time.
I might need some of your strategies. So it's, and like I said, this is applicable to all of us. And it's just offering them that same opportunity. I'm going to stop share and hopefully that'll bring us back. Can we go back to our regular slideshow? Thank you for that. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so that once they go through an internship, they do VocaFit again, and we can show growth, and then we can see, well, maybe what is a just right job VocaFit report look like for these young people? So teams should look at lots of greens, high ability, focus on what that graduate's interests and abilities are. Because they're going to have less support. What I love about Megan and her program and her team is that she and her job coaches, once their kids graduate from Project Search, they've kept in touch with them, and they all get jobs and they're employed. It's just such a great thing to follow them and see how they're doing. You can also share the results with an employer, or if they're still receiving services from VR, a job coach. Next slide, please. This is what a fingerprint of a just right job looks like. You can see compared to the internship, there's a lot less yellow and red and orange, and there is lots of green. So we know that that's probably a better match for a job as opposed to an internship. Next slide, please. Okay, so like I said, VocaFit, this was a very brief introduction to what VocaFit is. It's free online. You can go to vocafit.com anytime. You can create your own account. You can answer questions about a young person that you're working with. There's tons of support available. There's video libraries, there's PDFs on how to sign in, how to create an account, how to get started. If you get stuck and you need help, there's office hours where you can go and talk to a real person, one of the creators of the VocaFit, and they'll help get you set up. It has like the times and a Zoom link there and a phone number. And an email address. So if this is something that you're not familiar with and you want to start using, you can go there right away and do that. Next slide, please. It's also in Spanish. So if we are in Spanish speaking communities, it will change to, there's a button to click at vocfit.com that will change everything in Spanish. Next slide, please. Here's that support page where there's the PDF versions of manuals and actual video tutorials to help you get started. Next slide. More videos. Next slide, please. Okay, before we do this, I'm gonna go back and share my screen again because we were talking about those just right job opportunities. And I want Megan to talk about this young person. There's a little video, and I think the story goes, Megan, that she started somewhere else and maybe it wasn't a good fit. And now she's in a new setting. Let me get there. Hopefully this will work.
So this young lady, like I said, we would see Courtney again. This is Courtney, and when you are in a community, and our goal is to always, we are graduating to our community, not the couch. And so you have to find things that fit them. And Courtney was somewhere else. There was many tasks that changed often, and it was a struggle. So here she's actually receiving coaching from our job coach, employment specialist, and she's at a warehouse setting, learning to fold and package all these shirts and hats and all of the fun merchandise you buy when you're on vacation to get shipped. I think she's doing Gatlinburg right now, but it's just finding those pieces and finding that employer that's going to work with you through them. But it's exciting to see the success.
Yeah, and just the idea that the flexibility of being flexible, and I'm trying to get out of here, sorry, and knowing that maybe if one job opportunity isn't going to work out, there's another place. And then I have one more.
And I was also going to say to that too, is that so technically, and I know us in the field that we're in, you never stop caring about your kids, or your young people that you work with, the young adults. And that's the thing, we want them to be successful. So say something happens and she didn't get to keep that original first job, we're not going to just be like, okay, we're done, we tried, that's it. You have to keep looking at things, looking what's going to fit, what's going to work. And sometimes we don't understand the job as well when it's offered to those young people. And once you get into it, you're like, oh, this might be even hard for me. How am I going to help this young person? And you try the best you can, and sometimes it doesn't work, but you have those success stories to always fall back on and to know, okay, that perseverance really plays a part.
And I have one more picture, if I think I lost it. Oh, well, do you want to tell about the new car?
Yeah, so Liz knows this young person. He's in the research study, and he was in Project Search last year. He's been actually working at a warehouse for Advent Health almost a year now. And his big goal was to save, because while he was in Project Search, he also got his driver's license. And so he wanted to save for a car. And I went out, I think about 3 weeks ago, to go see him. And he was like, I have something to show you. So at his break time, we went out to the parking lot and he showed me his car. He opened the hood, started the car, and he's really proud of himself. He even put on his little sunglasses and turned on the radio. It's amazing, because these are young people and they go through all the stages all of us have gone through, and they have the same excitement as we did when that happened, right? And so I was actually crying when he showed us that, because that's been a goal of his for almost 2 years, and we met it. And some goals are those short term, some are long term, some are in the middle, and it's just success story after success story. And VocaFit really helps that, because it gives you that visual foundation to know, okay, let's push the kid a little more, or, oh, let's back off, because you actually see those areas. I'm a visual person. When Liz showed the list of words, those are great. Those are great for IEPs or IPEs and things like that. But I like to see the wheel. the wheel is what I like to see. So I want to see greens and yellows and not a lot of oranges and reds.
Thank you. I think it's just so great. And what's really great too is, Megan's in a hospital setting with Project Search, but I'm working with a Project Search classroom that's at a golf resort at a hotel. And so like all of their jobs are, you can imagine all the different jobs that come with being in a hotel type setting, whether it's, front desk, laundry, banquet, any of these golf, because it's a golf hotel resort.
Right. The other cool thing too, when you go into the system and you match that student with those specific jobs, if there's a job in there that doesn't match, although they have many, 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 but I've been with Project Search for quite a few years now, and I was with them the first year because the original founder, he actually worked at Ohio State, and so like the 10th anniversary, I think, of Project Search, they really started this VocaFit research and starting the idea of it. And so we helped sometimes build those systems. So I have a warehouse job, but you're really just a deliverer, and you can create those specific jobs that you're looking for and those specific tasks. So when I went to Central Service, I sit down with them with all the list of 133 items, and I go over with the manager, the supervisor, like, okay, what things do you need? Because originally that wasn't in the system. And now most of our stuff is there, but if it's not there, you can also create it. There's a spot to do it.
That's amazing. And so even you can create what skills are needed for different jobs and add them back into the VocaFit system. So it's been incredible. I'm going to give a quick advertisement because we are trying to make the VocaFit better. Like Megan was just saying, she's kind of been there, from the beginning, where we're changing things and we want it to be as accessible as possible. And we're currently doing a research study to help make it better. And we are looking for young adults ages 18 to 22. We're about to bump that up to 26 years old very soon, where they will be a participant in our study to help make the VocaFit better. And they are able to participate in the research by answering some surveys about themselves. And then they need a partner reporter to answer the VocaFit questions about them. And as a thank you, it's a 2-year-long study, and they meet with us three times. And so for each time, each interview, they can earn $40 up to $120. The young person and the partner reporter for each interview can also earn $40 for each one. Our email and phone number is on this slide at the Yale Lab. So we're always looking to partner with Project Search classes, VR companies, vendors, universities. I know that I'm working with University of North Florida. They have a really great on-campus transition type program where young adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities can come and live on campus and audit classes and things like that. Because we're actually currently hiring in our lab right now. We're looking for young people with developmental intellectual disabilities to hire more. So my info is there. Just continuing to make connections. And thank you for having us today. I hope we
Thank you.
with the mission of the conference, and you can email or call me anytime with questions. And just thank you so much.